right, what do you say? Happy Friday, one and all. It is Moose and Keith with you right here on the Better Sports Network. Thanks for being with us. Plenty to get into, plenty to chat about over the course of the next hour, taking it right up until high noon. We'll be joined a little bit later on the program by Joe Partel from at JB Fantasy Sports from RotoWire. He'll join us a little bit later on in the program. We've got some selections coming your way. We'll give you some knockout picks, everything like that. React to the Thursday night game. Matt Deutsch is celebrating wherever he might be on this very Friday morning because Justin Fields was utterly brilliant. About 340 total yards of offense last night, 4 touchdowns. The Chicago Bears, as a 6.5 point underdog, go into Maryland and absolutely embarrass the Washington Commanders, win that game 40-20, up 27-3 at halftime. Magic Johnson hopping on social media, ripping the intensity of the team. I mean, just a disastrous performance for Washington. And I think their quarterback is, to quote Keith Arizari, is just a guy.
Yeah.
When you look at Sam Howell, I don't think he's anything special. I think he's just a guy. And Justin Fields showed you last week against Denver, their defense was awful. Washington's defense is supposed to be really good, and the Chicago Bears went in last night and absolutely shredded them. Fields was great. DJ Moore was a fantasy stud last night as they win that game going away. And really, the game at 10-0, I never thought Washington was going to get themselves back into it. Chicago just looked like they were playing on a different level.
Tell me the things that Justin Fields does well. All right, so he throws a deep ball very well because he's a rocket of an arm, and he runs really well. So why would the Commanders be playing so much man defense against the Chicago Bears? It really makes no sense. Like against a Justin Fields and against a Bears offense that 2 weeks ago, everyone thought had major limitations. You run different types of schemes where you're running different types of zones and you're showing him different looks and you're trying to confuse Justin Fields, right? Because the knock, at least publicly, is whether or not Justin Fields can kind of be a guy that has so many plays, or does he need to have a more limited playbook where it's just about his pure athleticism and his rocket arm? Last night, I felt like the Commanders almost played into what is there for Justin Fields. Now, with that being said, Moose, I loved watching Justin Fields play last night. I'm a Justin Fields fan. Like, I know you and I joke about this because of the Matt Deutsch situation, and the Deutsch drafted him number 8 overall in a offseason fantasy draft, and we like to poke fun. But I'm a Justin Fields guy. I love watching the guy play football, and I'm rooting for him. And if what we saw the last 2 weeks is any indication of what the Bears offense is willing to look like, then Justin Fields, I'm not trying to say that he's the guy, but let's not just throw him to pasture.
No, I wouldn't throw him to pasture. I think a lot of people thought it was more a Bear problem than it was a Justin Fields problem, and that he could play in this league. Clearly, he showed you that, it might look a little bit different than a pure pocket passer, but he could clearly show you that he belongs in the league. It's the level that you believe that Justin Fields can go out there and get to. They snapped a 14-game losing streak last night. I mean, they haven't won and tasted victory in quite some time. The question for, their young general manager who came over from Kansas City was that, did you want to do a complete reset, or is Justin Fields going to be on your timeline? That's why people are throwing around the idea of maybe you trade Justin Fields to Atlanta, and then, the Bears were on pace to have the top 2 picks in this year in spring's NFL draft. I mean, that's where they were through the first 3 weeks. And we all know there's going to be 2 primetime quarterbacks that are going to be available, whether it be Caleb Williams at a USC or Drake May at a North Carolina. So the question is, okay, do you do a full reset? You draft Caleb Williams, you trade away Justin Fields, you get more picks, then you dump the 2nd overall pick and trade back and get even more picks, and then you have more quality players coming into that deal. So that's the question that you and I aren't going to answer on this Friday morning. That's a big picture question when you look at the Chicago Bears. But, clearly, Fields, first couple weeks, looked, for fantasy players, I have him on my team. He was awful. He was just absolutely dreadful. And the last 2 weeks, he's been a really good fantasy player. They had no business losing that game last week at home against the Denver Broncos. They should never have lost that game. They did because they're the Chicago Bears. And then last night, why it shows you it's a week-to-week league in the NFL, when you're looking at, we're not talking about Kansas City, you're not talking about Buffalo, you're not talking about Dallas, you're not, well, even Dallas, you're not talking about San Francisco, Dallas it is, not talking about San Francisco, not talking about Philadelphia, like the upper echelon teams, right? Where you know you're going to consistently get that effort. This is the same Washington team that lost last night by 20 points at home on a short work week. A Bears team that blew a 28-7 lead last week to a god-awful Denver Bronco team, but the same Washington team that took Philadelphia to overtime on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, that's where you want to talk about the definition of a week-to-week league when you're looking at the National Football League. I present to you the Washington Commanders, because you watched that game last night, you said, how the hell did that team, how exactly did that team, I know it's a division game, I know it's rivalry, how did that team take the Philadelphia Eagles to overtime?
And that's why survivor picks are so difficult. That's why picking these weekly picks are so difficult to do, because you hate to say it, but there is parity in the NFL. And what I mean by that is, yes, we know who probably the best five or six teams are in the NFL. We know that, but everyone else is jumbled up. Like, for as bad as the Bears are, and as bad as insert team, and as bad as this team, and as bad as that team, any week they could end up winning, because professional athletes sometimes hike it up, and sometimes professional athletes on the other side don't hike it up.
Yeah, well, it's true. Want to hear your questions in the chat session, by the way. You got any fantasy questions, we'll fire away and we'll answer them for you. We got you right up until high noon today. Let's because the game really wasn't much of a game. Fields deserves all the credit in the world. I think fantasy players are celebrating about DJ Moore's performance and Justin Fields. So let's hear from those two combatants. After last night's 20-point win in Maryland over Washington, let's hear from DJ Moore, who had himself one hell of a Thursday night against the Commanders.
I felt amazing, get the first win under our belts and have that momentum going into the next game. It was just fun, football is fun out there playing a kids game, at the end of the day. And tonight was just the stars aligned, and all glory to God for it. So I'm just happy for it. People was like, do you know how many yards you got? I'm like, please don't tell me. Let's not jinx tonight, and let's just focus on this win. When we got off the field, it was all everybody telling me what I did, and it was good.
Did you get an explanation on the play where you apparently set that?
No, so that really pissed me off, because I was about to score. I could have had 4 touchdowns, and the ref got to do his job, but at the same time, it is what it is. We got the win, so I'm not too mad on it. The play speaks for itself. I'm not really too worried about if I get the ball a lot, but when I get the ball, I just want to be able to make a positive play out of it. So, that's what's been happening, so I look forward to it.
Yeah, there you go. 8 catches, 230 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the former Carolina Panther, current Chicago Bear. Justin Fields has been hot as a firecracker last 2 games, played really, really well at the quarterback spot last night. He had 4 touchdowns, 339 yards of total offense. Here's Fields after the game.
Good, just a feeling we all had after the game. It's a feeling that you just never wanted to end. So, just proud of the way, all the guys came out and played tonight. O-line did the thing versus the dominant D-line. They showed out. Just proud of everybody.
Justin, there was a lot of tension in the second half when they were making their comeback. How did it feel to you to see DJ running away with the ball at the end and knowing that was going to be it?
Yeah, the sign of relief for sure. We just had to reset. Of course, the drive where we had a false start, everybody was kind of jumping around a little bit, but it just went over to the guys and just said, calm down. We're in a great position. Defense going to go out there and do their thing. And they did. Got a stop. And, of course, when DJ made that catch and run, it was pretty much game over by then. So, heck of a play, great catch. Great protection up front and executed it well.
Do you think he stepped out on the other play?
I couldn't see it, but I think they should have just let it play out and then, of course, review it and then overturn it. But they usually do that. I'm surprised they didn't. But I'm going to go with him and say that he didn't step out, even though I couldn't see it at all. But he didn't think he stepped out. But
yeah. By the way, he didn't step out. And
by the way,
NFL
can Amazon Prime give us a replay?
Yeah, that was weird, right?
We get replays of everything else over and over and over again. Last night, you're the only game in town. It wasn't much of a game to watch. It was for friends and family at certain points of that game. Can you give me a replay of that play? Just one. I'm not asking for 5. Just give me one.
Just one.
Still waiting, by the way. Still waiting.
You got none. A quick news note here. So the Dolphins and the Bears made a trade this morning. The Bears will trade away Chase Claypool, a 25 7th round pick for a 2025 sixth round pick. It's all pending a physical. So the Dolphins get Chase Claypool, which, I mean, I don't really know the need for it. I guess they're just trying to load up and have as many weapons as possible.
Well, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
and also he's a bigger body target too.
Yeah, they don't have one of those, right?
No,
they got
I mean,
all
so
their
you had
receivers are
a
smaller
guy that,
stature.
you had a guy. I mean, Waddle and Hill are unbelievably quick, but they're small. I mean,
Yeah.
by NFL standards, they're not by average American size. They're small. I'm just talking about by NFL standards, they're smallish wide receivers. So now you had a bigger body target in Claypool, where you can add somebody else into the mix for Mike McDaniel to mix in offensively, and clearly Claypool and the Chicago Bears. I mean, terrible trade by Chicago bringing him in from the Pittsburgh Steelers when they made it, but that's a good gamble. I mean, if you're the Miami Dolphins, never, if you're any NFL team, you're always going to gamble on talent. Claypool can play in the league, and you're not giving up all that much. And you add maybe a guy that maybe makes a key, third down catch. Maybe he makes a big key red zone target. Is he going to be an integral part of that offense? Does that impact fantasy players? Unless there's a key injury to Waddle or Tyreek Hill, I don't think it's going to be a huge fantasy impact. It's more about a team aspect for Miami.
Speaking of fantasy, so I, in one of my leagues, started Justin Fields, DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, good start to your week.
So I got 100.48 points out of 3 players.
That's a nice start.
And this was supposed to be a down week for me because I have Rachaad White on a bye. I have an Amari Cooper on a bye. Like, everyone's on a bye. This is my Nick Chubb team too. So this is the team that I'm worried, losing Nick Chubb, trying to figure out a way back. Well, all right. Thank you, Curtis Samuel.
Well, you were celebrating.
Thank you, DJ Moore.
There's no doubt about it.
Yes,
you were celebrating. So that was the Thursday night affair last night. Quickly, before we take our first time out, as we look ahead to the Sunday games, everybody and their mother is going to be focused in on the big matchup between Dallas and San Francisco. I can't. First off, it's got old school rivalry written all over it. The Catch, Dwight Clark, everything that we've seen over the years. Steve Young, Aikman. You think about the great players that have played for Cowboys and the 49ers over the years. And the other aspect of it, Keith, is San Francisco's owned Dallas as of late. I mean, they've owned them. They've won big games in Dallas. They beat them last year in the postseason. So, is this game going to decide the number 1 seed in the NFC? I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have something to say about that when it comes down to it. So I'm not going to tell you that. But for the Dallas Cowboys, this is an important game for them in the regular season because they have to – I really believe they've got to prove to themselves that they can actually go and beat the San Francisco 49ers, because I have no doubt that the 49ers believe they can go into Dallas and win a big-time playoff game there.
Yeah, I think the Niners
I don't think Dallas believes that.
Exactly. I would think the Niners would have all of the confidence here. And we're going to hear from Dak Prescott in a second, seeing our chat lighten up too. We're going to get to your questions in just a bit. But I think this is a crucial game for Dallas. Now, listen, if this ends up being 30-27, Niners win on a game-winning field goal that they had a nice drive, it's not as heartbreaking. But if the Niners go in and either dominate Dallas or win because Dallas has a blunder, like if this is a close game and Dak throws a pick 6 and that's the difference maker, yeah, that's bad. All right, speaking of Dak Prescott, I think we have the actual question from the reporter here. So I'm just gonna lay out, roll it, Bernsey.
Dak, what was the feeling leaving that locker room last January against those guys?
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, we're so far past that, to be honest with you, but that's obvious. I mean, you just want to piss me off going into this week, and I appreciate that. I do, actually. I do. Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Is that lost drive you guys?
I mean, every day. Every day. Every day, Ty, every day. Thank you, guys. All right.
Yeah, he almost dropped the F-bomb there. That's
he almost did.
And but yeah, I'm sure it does. I mean, for the Dallas Cow, it would have been great if these two teams were undefeated going in. Obviously, Dallas had the setback a couple weeks ago against the Arizona Cardinals. I agree with Hal in our chat session, and we'll get to Chris. We'll get to your question after the break, but the coaching staff for San Francisco, you trust more than you do trust Dallas's coaching staff. And the 49ers all of this nonsense, Brock Purdy, who, read this week that he's got a roommate that he lives with and he's still driving his Toyota Sequoia. Did you see that?
I did.
And, I know, understand he was Mr. Irrelevant and people are talking about the fact that he's a system quarterback. Well, I'll be honest with you. Like, who cares? Like, he's really good. Like, if you want to look at it, because that's some of the nonsense you used to hear with Bill Walsh and the West Coast offense. Well, it's all about the system. It's not necessarily the one that's orchestrating the offense. Can we give the guy due diligence? I mean, maybe people, we make so much of the NFL draft and building up guys. This guy was a guy that flew under the radar, just like Tom Brady flew under the radar at Michigan. Brock Purdy did at Iowa State, landed in the spot. And is taking advantage of that opportunity. A guy where the 49ers were willing to turn their back on Jimmy Garoppolo and an organization that had paid a king's ransom to go get Trey Lance. And as an organization, they realized Trey Lance can't play. So let's go with the guy that can play, and Purdy can play, and he's been ridiculously good, and all they do is win.
So my issue, and it's not with you, my issue with this concept of he's a system quarterback or he's a this or he's a that with like the system, right? Every QB is in a system that is either going to benefit them or not. If I took Tom Brady and threw him into an option style offense, he's not going to succeed. Belichick and the New England Patriots built an offense around Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady was extremely talented. But if you get to the NFL, like Dan Orlovsky was talking about this earlier last week, about every quarterback in the NFL has accuracy. It's whether or not they have NFL accuracy. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, right? Because like Kenny Pickett is struggling mightily when he's healthy in the NFL. It doesn't mean that he's not accurate. He's not having NFL accuracy, and he's not having NFL success. And maybe he's not in the right system, right? Brock Purdy is in the NFL, which means he's a talented thrower of the football or player of the quarterback position. And then Shanahan in that offense has decided to build an offense now that fits him as well. Oh, it also doesn't hurt when you have real weapons around you too. And Purdy does. That's not taking anything away from Purdy. It's a well-built team.
No, I mean, so what? You don't have to have great players around you. Christian McCaffrey, he has got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk when he's healthy, George Kittle. Offensive line not nearly as good this year as has been. Trent Williams obviously is going to be a future Hall of Famer at that left tackle spot. It's a really good, he's got really talented players around him, and he gets talented players the football and doesn't turn the football over.
Yeah. Like that's important.
That's important. And I think when you go into this game, until Dallas shows me, Keith, that they can beat a team of the caliber of the San Francisco 49ers, I think it's San Francisco for me or nothing. Like I can't, that's the way that I look at this game because, I think San Francisco's got an edge on coaching staff. I think San Francisco edge confidence-wise and a belief that they're going to win the game going into it. And Dallas at times, outside of the New England game, they've had real issues in scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And the Diggs injury has changed them defensively as well. Listen, nobody doesn't love Micah Parsons more than I do. And he's an absolute game wrecker. Overall quality of team, though, I think San Francisco's a better football team than Dallas.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the way you look at it. We'll come back. We'll get more into what is week 5. Amazingly enough, we're a game in after the Bears dispatched of Washington. We're already up to week 5. We'll answer your questions in the chat session as well. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Mark Malusis. It's Moose and Keith each and every Monday and each and every Friday from 11 to 12 right here on the Better Sports Network.
What can we expect for you out there on the track tonight?
Listen, I have a wife, 2 kids. I have, full-time jobs. I'm never nervous. I don't even know what that word means. Can you explain what nervous means? No. I'm ready to have fun. I've never done anything like this before. I got asked to be a part of this. This is fascinating. Like, it's so cool to just look around and see what goes on here. So I'm just excited to get out on the horse. And you want trash talk? Is that what you're asking me for? No trash talk. I hope everyone does well.
All right. Everyone's going to do well, but it has to be a winner. So give me your trifecta. Who's going to come in first, second, and third? Your heat.
I will go Maria 1, me 2, Willie 3, Moose goes 4th.
Well, it's very simple. I won this event last year. I won my heat, and so the defending champ has to be the favorite. Now, that makes me a little nervous just because I feel like it's hard to repeat. There's a little pressure when you're the favorite. But that being said, I'm still optimistic.
So your heat, it's you,
Yes.
Moose and Keith from Better Sports Network, and Willie Colon.
I think Keith might be my stiffest competition. And I asked for this because I actually recruited Keith, if you didn't know. So Keith, if you win, you're welcome.
Malusis is very good. I mean, he knows what he's doing. But I'm going to go with Maria.
Keith is waving to the crowd. He must pay attention because they're off. It's Mark Malusis going for the lead. Maria Marino on the outside, and now Keith Irizarry on the outside with speed, and they're 3 wide into the first turn. Mark Malusis is locked in for his life. 1:38 and 2. They're into the stretch. Sportscasters Derby 2. And still in front, Keith Irizarry. And now Mark Malusis is trying to squeeze on through.
Come on! Hey! Come on! Let's go! Come on, kick it! Kick it! Yeah!
Keith Irizarry. Keith, you did it all the way, wire to wire, over Mark Malusis.
Awesome! That was so cool!
The champ is here! Keith, what was it like being out there? Adrenaline rush, you were doing the Instagram Live, so there was no panic. You looked cool, calm, collected the whole time, and you won it.
I felt really comfortable. I did. Like, I know you were joking with me before. Are you nervous? Are you whatever? What are you? David, the driver, was awesome. He's like, we're going to win this. I said, all right, let's win this. And he said, let's go. Yeah, I just felt really comfortable. I did. It was fun. We're in the lead. I got Maria Marino on the right side of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to beat us, right? And then out of nowhere, you see Moose coming up this way, and we feel him breathing down our neck. And I'm like,
Moose on the loose. Watch out.
Moose was definitely on the loose, and we just got Moose by a neck, a nose, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but again, all of this for a great cause, and it was absolutely awesome to do this. It was cool.
All right, Keith, congratulations, and no matter what, you could always hold this over Moose's head.
Yeah!
It's Moose and Keith with Mark Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
All right, let's get the question from Chris Kreider. 10-team PPR. I just proposed a trade to get Bijan and give away Higgins and Waller. I have Chase and Laporta. Also might try Palmer for Michael Wilson. Thoughts?
All right, so my thoughts are this. I don't know why the other person would make this trade. You're getting the best player in the deal in Bijan. T. Higgins, probably not going to play this week. The bye week is week 7, right? So if you're Cincinnati, you may end up sitting Higgins with the fractured rib in week 5, week 6. You'd lose him for week 7 in a bye, which means you don't even get Higgins until week 8. Now, listen, 10-team PPR, you might have a deep squad. So maybe you can go 3 more weeks without, what would probably be your wide receiver 2 in Higgins. That's rough for me. Darren Waller, I'm not as high on Waller as Moose is. I just don't believe in this Giants offense very much, and I don't believe that Waller will stay healthy all year. I'm not rooting for that. Love to see him stay healthy. So if you can get this done, Chris, yes.
I don't think the other team is getting it.
No way.
way. You're trading
this is an immediate reject. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm immediately
that's one where it's
rejecting.
like, no thanks, pass.
Yeah.
You don't even counter.
No, I'm not countering on that one. Also, by the way, I would pick up Wilson for Joshua Palmer.
Yeah. Yes, I would do that as well. Wilson, I think, is becoming the go-to guy for Dobbs out there. One of the guys out there.
Yeah, him in Hollywood, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson's had a good start to his fantasy season out there in Arizona, no question about it. A couple quick hitters here before we welcome in Joe Bartel from RotoWire. Want to remind everybody, start a free 7-day trial, Fantasy Alarms All-Pro subscription today. Get DFS content and NFL picks for Week 5 free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win. All right, number 1, Giants. Couple things there. Wink Martindale had a great quote talking about the fact that the Giants, they're 11-point dogs taking on the Miami Dolphins Sunday in South Beach. And we all know the Giants have looked utterly pathetic. We'll get to Evan Neal in just a second. And he was asked the question, basically, how's it feel going up against Miami? He said, well, I'm sleeping like a baby. I'm up every 2 hours and I'm going to the bathroom and I'm crying. I mean, that is a great line from Martindale.
Amazing.
The Neil comments got a lot of pub here in New York, and I'm sure it played across the country as well. When Evan Neal, ripped the fan base, called them fair weather fans. The Giants have been booed, they've been criticized. Neal has really struggled at right tackle. He was the 7th overall pick coming out of Alabama. We know that was a guy that you thought was going to be plug and play really, really well. And said, basically, who are these guys that are criticizing me? They're probably flipping hot dogs and hamburgers. First off, you never flip a hot dog. You twist it, you turn it, you don't flip it. But I get the point that he was making. Number one is, as Saquon said yesterday when he met with the media, and everybody should know, you never win a battle with the fans. The Giants have been terrible. Now you have the connection where people can rip you if you're active on social media and send you messages. It comes along with the territory of being, a first-round pick, being a professional athlete. Those are things that now I understand people can get nasty. I'm not telling you that's A-okay. And people can overstep the bounds. I'm not telling you that that's A-okay. But there's a lot of Giant fans out there that pay their hard-earned money, and they are just as frustrated as you are watching it. Now, the other thing that hit me, this is something Evan Neal, I'm not making excuses for him. If you're a Giant fan, you have every right to be just as upset as you are. Came out, he apologized, posted something on social media, met with the media the next day, apologized, was really eloquent with it. This is also probably the first time that Evan Neal has ever in his entire life, and he's just 23, has ever struggled at football.
Yeah.
He was a 5-star recruit. He went to IMG his final year of high school, was a 5-star recruit that went to Alabama. He played in the 2019 Under Armour All-Star game where, those are the best of the best around the country. This is a guy that dominated in high school, probably dominating Pee Wee football, dominated in college, and now he's not dominating the NFL, and he's probably searching for answers. I'm not telling you what he said was okay. It's not. He got a big-time life lesson. You never say what he said, and what he said was absolutely nasty. But I also think he's probably has a crisis of confidence in going through something as a young man that he's never gone through before in his entire life.
Yeah, the misstep here for Evan Neal was, throwing shade at what people might do for their livelihood. And that's it. Like, I actually, listen, I think there's this fundamental flaw in the fact that fans are allowed to boo mercilessly players and teams. Like, I get it. We all just say it's okay. But there's this fundamental flaw for that. Just because you pay for something shouldn't mean you're allowed to boo and be absolutely disgustingly mean to other.
Well, you could boo.
Right.
You don't have to be disgustingly mean. I mean, nobody's above reproach. Listen, I don't go to games and boo, Keith, but if you spend a lot of money and it costs you a lot of money to go to an NFL game, parking pass, PSL, everything that comes along with it, and you want to boo because you're disappointed in the performance, I have no issues with that. Now, getting physical, being nasty, calling names, cursing a blue streak. We've seen alcohol play a role. The fights that you're seeing in the stands. I mean, people are idiots. All of that nonsense needs to go away.
Yeah, all these fights. It's a lot.
It's just grow up. But I don't mind people booing. I just don't. That doesn't bother me.
Right. So, but to take that further is we're accepting of it, right? We accept the booing. That's okay. I'm actually okay with a player getting up at a in their locker room, whatever, and just saying, listen, fans are out there booing. I don't like it. I don't like what we're doing on the field either. There's a way for a player to do that and still get their shot at the fan. But you never talk about what people do for a living. It's just, you don't disparage other human beings. But that's where it's the tough part, right? Because when you're an athlete, you might sit there and go, well, if you're booing me, you're disparaging what I do for a living. I'm not gonna, I'm not coming to, I'll use his example, Evan Neal, right? I'm not going to insert establishment where you're cooking food, and if the food comes out not perfectly, I'm not sitting there going, boo!
No, I get it.
So that's where it's a tough dichotomy there, where I've always battled with it. And what I will tell you is, I don't boo at games. I don't. And I try to teach my children not to as well. Again, it's accepted. It's what the world has viewed as okay. I personally, Keith Irizarry, don't boo at football game or any games. I just don't.
Do you agree with what Joe Burrow had to say, that this is a must win this week for the Cincinnati Bengals against
Yeah.
Arizona. Yes.
Yeah, you had Jamar Chase essentially like acting like there's dissension in the locker room. You have Joe Burrow, maybe on one leg potentially, and you have a team that has been to a Super Bowl and to an AFC Championship the last 2 years that suddenly looks like just another team.
Yeah, they got to win. By the way,
Hal, if you're right, if that's true, if people boo in restaurants, that's awesome.
Hal in our chat session also said he sat HN with the Miami Dolphins week 2 and week 3. Does he mean week 3 and week 4? Week 3 was the breakout against Denver. Week 3 and week 4, and then DJ Moore last night. That's tough. HN's a must start now every week.
Yeah, I'm starting him. I think I'm going to use him in Fantasy Survivor this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's
I like
a guy
the
that
matchup.
no question about it. He's a guy that you got to start every week. We'll continue the conversation. Joe Bartel from RotoWire will join the program next. It's Moose and Keith with you on this Friday right here, Better Sports Network.
Oh boy, we got a big one. We got a big card here. We got
let's go.
We got a super rookie.
Ooh.
Do you guys want to guess who the big card super rookie is? Because
I'm going to guess
exciting.
somebody from the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't recall who were rookies in those particular years. So I'm going to guess Michael Irvin.
Adam?
Jared kind of convinced me to go Troy Aikman there.
I'm going to read the description. In this player's NFL debut, September 10th, 1989, he produced an electrifying 68-yard punt return for a touchdown.
Sanders.
He became the first athlete in the 20th century to hit a home run, September 5th, 1989, for the Yankees at Seattle, and score a touchdown in the same week.
That needs a sleeve. That one needs a sleeve.
Top
100%.
super rookie, neon, prime time, Deion Sanders.
I wasn't that far off. He played for the Cowboys.
I was going to say Deion, and then when you said the early 90s Cowboys, I'm like, oh, Aikman would be a good guess. So I go with your gut is the lesson there.
And there it is, the white and red Falcon jerseys that you said Deion came in with before they changed to black.
That was because the starting lineup for Deion his rookie year has got the red helmet with the white jersey.
Now look at that do. I mean, are you kidding me with that hair?
I mean, you got to have a headband with those curls. You got to.
That is sick. And this is a favorite card. Do we have any value on this card? We have to, right?
Let me see.
Give me a value here.
Let's see here on eBay. PSA 10 gem mint Deion Sanders, $149.99. And then a 9.5 is $6. So that guy might be a little bit then there's a much more reasonably listed one at $31 for a PSA 10. So it's got some value to it. Yeah, you might want to protect that one.
It's in excellent condition. I guess we have to worry about, is it centered?
Yes, that would be the next thing.
All right, well, we'll go through the process there. Maybe I'll just frame that one as a great moment in this show's history.
It's Moose and Keith with Mark Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
All right, let's welcome aboard right now. Joe Bartel joins us. RotoWire. Hit him up on Twitter at JB Fantasy Sports. Hey, Joe, Mark Malusis, Keith Irizarry. Thanks for the time this morning. I don't hear Joe.
Not hearing Joe right now. Hold on. We'll get that audio fixed.
We'll see if we can get that.
Moose, you still go Twitter, huh? You don't say the X yet?
I don't say the X. By the way, are you going to play the Powerball?
I didn't. What's going on?
It's $1.4 billion.
Didn't even know.
You got to get you had to know. Come on. Let me ask you. So you're not going to play it, obviously.
I mean, I work from home. My kids are at school. My wife is at school.
That's right. Okay.
I don't see other.
All right. So
beings.
It's $1.4 billion. So are you going to make a ride to now the local store and get yourself a ticket?
I guess I could. I have a few errands to run this afternoon. Maybe I should.
You should, because let me.
Well, I've never bought a Powerball ticket by myself. I've never actually been
say,
the person.
$10 in quick picks Powerball.
That's what I do. $10 quick picks.
Yeah, $10 in quick picks. Yeah.
I mean, I guess what's the worst that happens?
Well, say if you win.
Yeah.
Say if you win.
But if I win, then
like if you win, you'd be done.
I don't know if I would quit everything. You would quit everything?
Are you serious?
Joe Bartel, let's ask him. All right, so Joe, if
if you won 1.4 billion and you take the lump sum is going to be in the neighborhood of $670 million.
Okay.
Joe, would you quit it all?
No.
You would continue to work.
Yes, I love doing the fantasy stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
me
this
too.
has been my dream job ever since high school. I don't really think I'm good at a lot of other things, so getting to talk about fantasy football, getting to talk about football, it gives me some credential. You know, it allows me to not annoy my wife as much as well too. No, I don't think I'd be able to quit. I love doing this job, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm with Joe. I would continue to work. I mean, I might not work as often. Like I might take some.
Okay, now let me ask you this: would you tell people that you won?
Not a chance.
No.
Yeah.
No. That just presents too many problems, I think.
All of a sudden, Joe's pulling up to like a meeting, and he's driving a Ferrari.
I think someone might catch on. RotoWire doesn't quite pay the bills in that extent.
He's got the lime green Lamborghini.
Joe, how did you get that? You know, buddy of mine let me borrow it for the week.
Yeah,
right. I was actually the initial person part of the Best Buy, or it's not the Best Buy. It was GameStop. Yeah, that I was really the one shorting that. Sorry. Yeah. Exactly.
1.4 billion is something. So 1.4 billion would be like 700 million. Yeah, I mean, you like, yes, you never would have to work again. I think that I would like, because I love what we do, right? I think that.
No, listen, I wouldn't initially at all quit, but
I'd buy an insane house.
Yeah, you'd buy an insane house. You can go anywhere and do anything you want in the world. I know, Joe, this is not the reason why we brought you on.
No, Joe's excited that he's here for this now.
I love envisioning money I'll never have. This is
yes, I know. Yes. But imagine what you could do with like 700 million.
Let's do that. All right. So what's the 3 things that would be at the top of your list that you would want to spend large amounts of money on? Joe, you go first.
Oh God, so I'm like the worst and like the dumbest person with this because I just pay off any debt I have right away. All student loans, things like that. It's just we're gone. I never want to worry about that again. The house for sure. And you know, I live in the Wisconsin area in Madison. Housing is just ridiculous here. I am sure on both the coasts the same way. So I would go that direction as well too. Season tickets to Brewers and Bucks.
Ooh,
that's a guarantee. That's like a frivolous spending that I'd never do. I'm a diehard Packers fan. That's not frivolous. That is a guarantee I must spend. But the Bucks and Brewers would be in that same conversation. I'm a huge card collector and just memorabilia as well too. So I would probably that's one of those that would the first Joe don't do that stupid purchase thing would be some like just erroneously expensive.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Okay. So like I used to collect cards when I was younger. My Uncle Pete used to go to card shows. I'll watch breaks online on Instagram late and stuff like that. Like it's just kind of fun and kind of mind numbing. But what's your one dream card, Joe? Like if I'd ask you like one card that you'd love, like a Jordan rookie, you know, like what's your Gem Mint 10 Jordan
personal
rookie?
To me, and like the Jordan great, it's a ton of money. You know, the Tom Brady stuff too. Well, I don't really care about Tom Brady that much, and I'm a little bit too young to care about Michael Jordan to that extent. So I would probably pick something like an Aaron Rodgers, one of those top end cards, maybe like a flawless first edition or first year flawless Aaron Rodgers kind of thing. I think that would be along those same lines. For me, it would just be investing in rookies that are going to just be awful. So like I have a lot of Rashad Bateman in my closet here that I have to hide in my closet to remind myself how much I was invested poorly. Same with Kyle Pitts, guys like that too. So I think I'd be like in on some rookies that would be needlessly bad choices.
We got Hal in the chat saying research grant trust for state funded colleges. Now, Hal, that's not fun for this exercise. I agree, Hal. You're probably correct. That's probably the way to go. You know, all these trust funds and stuff like that. That's not fun for this. I'm buying stupid amount of vehicles. Okay. Like I want like different cars that I'm driving. And I know literally they will never earn me value back. But if I have hundreds of millions of dollars, like, you know, $700 million, I'm buying dumb cars, like stupid amount of cars. I'm buying a ridiculous house that essentially is like me living on an island. Like I want too big of a house, and then I'm gonna do something sports related for the kids. Like I honestly I might try to, you know, buy some sort of share into a team if I could, and then we just work. You know, then my kids will work for that team too, and it'll be fun.
Yeah. No. To me, house on the water, number one.
Yeah.
I'd put money away to take care of my kids, for, the college,
Yes.
everything, and so on and so forth.
Well, you could just buy a college and then they can just get a degree
Yeah,
from
right.
there.
So
Oh,
you
wait,
could-
people got in trouble for that.
Right. I'd get like my dream car is like a Range Rover, like those.
That's Jody. That's my wife Jody's dream car too, the Range Rover.
Yeah. So my
Oh.
dream car is the Range Rover. So I'd get myself a Range Rover for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
So that would be at the top of the list. The house with space, and maybe I'd love to buy a house that had like a hockey rink. There's one by us that has a hockey rink. So my kids, all three of my boys play hockey, so they can go skate when they get home from school and stuff like that. That would be awesome to me. And have their friends over, they could skate. That would be great.
So Joe, fantasy football, huh? Ready, set, go. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, Joe, let's get into it while you're here, because you're great at what you do and you love what you do. Cooper Kupp, what's the impact of his return for the Los Angeles Rams, and how many Puka Nacua owners out there are saying no?
I mean, there probably are people saying that. I don't think they should. I mean, I think we didn't have a great waiver wire period this past week. It was like Jaleel McLaughlin and a few other guys. So the talk of this week entering week 5 was, what do you do with these injured reserve guys? And Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor are the two top ones. I actually feel really confident that both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua can retain wide receiver 1-2 value very easily. Like I'm just looking at it from a projection standpoint. Like if you're saying Stafford and the Rams are going to throw 30 to 35 times a game, conservatively, right? Like I think the Rams defense is not very good. They've done way better than I anticipated this year, but conservatively, Sean McVay's having them throw at least 30 to 35 times. It's probably somewhere in the same Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp combined for 24 of those targets. And if that's the case, it's like, fine. Puka Nacua gets 8 for 80. You're very comfortable with that from a wide receiver 2 or flex perspective. Cooper Kupp might not have the high-end ceiling ranges that we've seen in past years when he was the only show in town and had the only bit of confidence that Matthew Stafford had. But at the same time, Stafford knows what he has in Cooper Kupp. You don't need to practice that or have some like repetition or rapport from recent games. Like I think that relationship is going to be natural and what Cooper Kupp's going to do. So I feel very comfortable having both in my roster. I feel very comfortable acquiring Puka Nacua if you could get him a little bit cheaper than whatever his price tag would have been the past 3 weeks. So I like both, and I think that Rams offense very easily can have both be obvious fantasy starters rest of season.
But where do you sit on week 5? Are you putting Cooper Kupp in a lineup, or are you putting Jonathan Taylor in a lineup, assuming that both are ready to play?
Yeah, I think we're going to get some breaking news. A little ditty might have kind of tipped me off on something. We're going to get some breaking news on Jonathan Taylor in the next couple hours or so, and I think he is going to play. But I almost wonder if it's a Trojan horse of sorts. Like, this is an important game for the Colts divisional match against the Titans. They're only favored by 1 point, at least when I did my write-up on Tuesday for all the over-unders and win totals for stuff. I think they're going to have Jonathan Taylor active, but I would feel a little bit uncomfortable playing Jonathan Taylor really because Zach Moss has been so good this season for the Colts too. And I would understand if Shane Steichen and the Colts offense wants to work things a little bit slower for Jonathan Taylor, get him back in the offense, and by week 7 or 8, then you have 20 carry a game Jonathan Taylor in an offense that is way better with a quarterback that's going to open up things way more for Jonathan Taylor. Like, I love the acquisition of Jonathan Taylor. If you could get him right now, hoping people are thinking he is not going to be very good or limited or going somewhere else. I think there's a lot of upside play for Jonathan Taylor, but I'm not playing him in week 5. I would play Cooper Kupp. Like, I think he drafted him as high as he did with the assumption that he is going to be an automatic start in your lineup. And that shouldn't change just because Puka Nacua has been fantastic. So I think Cooper Kupp is a play for me this week.
Is HN one of those guys that, later on this year, we're going to look back, those that were able to pick him up as the guy that put teams over the top?
Interesting. Yeah, you guys said before the break that he's an automatic start for you. I haven't felt that exact same way. He played 30 snaps in his breakout game, and 75% of those snaps came when they were already winning by 35 points against the Broncos. So it's like, okay, great. He absolutely ran roughshod on a defense that had already waved the white flag at that point, and then played 38 snaps last week. Raheem Mostert also, I think, played more snaps, but he wasn't as effective. Achan's good. I mean, and he's a really, really good player. But do you really want to have a 5'8" guy conservatively at 190 pounds routinely being the focal running back for your offense? Maybe if you didn't have better options. But Raheem Mostert's been also really good for the Dolphins. So I actually don't know if I'm completely in love with the idea that Devon Achane is going to be a guaranteed start this week. Rest of season, though, I'm treating him like the best version of whatever you thought Alexander Madison would be in years past when Delvin Cook would inevitably get hurt. Like that's where I have for HN. So yeah, you might have missed out in starting in week 3 or week 4, but you're going to have a guy that if the situation were to work out is easily a top 5 fantasy play. And I don't think that's quite there yet. So no, I almost wonder if Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams would be more the better answer to your question. You know, we do a podcast every Tuesday, RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, anywhere you want to look. At the end of the season, I've been doing this stuff for 5 years, the waiver wire stuff. We do award show, and who was like the biggest winner? And we've had at times Justin Jefferson, you know, his rookie year, he was cut in week 3 in a lot of places because Mike Zimmer hates fantasy players. Finally got Justin Jefferson going. He was fantastic. I think there's opportunity for both Nacua and Kyron Williams to be even better than Justin Jefferson his rookie year in terms of fantasy production and when you're able to get him. Like that's the level of confidence I have in both those guys.
How do you see the Lions wide receiver situation playing out? Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't practice today, so we don't know if he'll play this weekend. Josh Reynolds has been banged up, and Jameson Williams is back now.
Yeah, it's a really tricky spot. I feel I'm trusting Amon-Ra St. Brown. He says he's going to play. I have no reason to think he won't. I think the turf toe stuff, which I don't know if that ever got reported as to what it was, but we were worried about that 2 weeks ago, is a nagging injury. But Terry McLaurin's been fine enough from a fantasy perspective. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, will be too. The Panthers' defense is pretty good, but not that good, and especially without J.C. Horn. I think you play every one of those guys except Jameson Williams. Like, I'm really interested to see what happens if Reynolds were to go out and not play Sunday. Does Jameson Williams become a factor right away? Because we haven't really seen it. It was one play against my Packers last year where he got the big touchdown. Other than that, every other team has been able to figure out that they just throw him and run him deep. I don't know if Jameson Williams is a confident play, but I would be interested if Josh Reynolds is not out there, and at least from a best ball or DFS perspective.
Joe, before we ask you like a lean or two, what you like this weekend when you're looking at the matchups, I want to ask you about your Packers. You're a huge Green Bay fan. What about, Watson, Aaron Jones, Dillon, fantasy impact when you're looking at the 3 key guys when it's skill position players for Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-for question because that's actually probably my favorite lean of the week 5 slate. I thought 2.5 for the Packers felt great because the Raiders defense isn't very good. Packers defense isn't either. I've went on record everywhere saying Joe Barry is the worst coordinator in the NFL this year. Matt Canada's worse. I have to amend that a little bit. Joe Barry is also very, very bad at his job. So I think the Packers over. I like the Packers to cover the 2.5. Christian Watson's a little bit concerning to me. Like I thought the conversation around him was always way too high. To me, it felt like peak Commanders Deshaun Jackson, like 60 catches, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. But that wasn't the guy that I'd taken the 4th round, 10 years ago when Deshaun Jackson was with them. I loved Romeo Doubs, and I still continue to think he is the best Packer receiver, clearly has a chemistry with Jordan Love, is a great red zone threat, intermediate threat too, more consistent. Like if I'm acquiring one Packer receiver today, and I wouldn't because they have a bye next week, so it would be bad, and you guys correctly called that with the Bengals situation before, I think Romeo Doubs is the player that I'm targeting more than Christian Watson. But I do feel comfortable that Aaron Jones comes back and has a good game now 2 weeks removed from that hamstring injury.
Love it.
Joe, you're great.
Yeah, you're awesome,
man. We appreciate it. I want to ask some personal advice because a couple weeks ago I'm in a margin pool, and I asked Keith who I should go with. He's like, no doubt. I mean, you take Dallas against Arizona, and that was a big fat L.
Yes,
I'd even get a text from Keith. Nothing. He just laid it out
hiding.
there.
I went into hiding.
He just laid it out there, and
I was hoping
I
he
followed
forgot.
his advice. I was like, sage advice. Keith was like, go Dallas. Don't even worry about it. And there I am in the 4th quarter as Dallas is done by double digits as a double-digit favorite. Anyway, Joe, side note, what do you love if you're going margin knockout picks this week? What are you going with?
Yeah, and we do this from a survivor perspective. You pick one team, can they win in advance, go on. I had been targeting the Cardinals a lot. It just so happened that the Chiefs had a really nice matchup that week. Otherwise, I probably would have picked the Cowboys as well, too. It wasn't the wrong call, but it did become the wrong call because the Cardinals are more competent than we could have envisioned. I get a little bit worried about your Giants being the same way. So everyone's picking the Dolphins this week. The Dolphins, the highest spread, favored by 11 points. I don't know how they stop the Dolphins offense. Like, fine, Andrew Thomas comes back. Saquon Barkley looks good. Daniel Jones finally is actually a quarterback again and not whatever the punching bag that he was the past 3 weeks. Okay, the Giants produce points. Can they stop the Dolphins offense? I don't think they can. That's my biggest concern. So I still am picking the Dolphins. I don't trust Daniel Jones. I've thought he has not been a very good quarterback even last year when they were winning games. It was just a nice schedule. So I would go the Dolphins, but the concerning part is there really isn't a number of great options other than the Dolphins this week. And I feel like anytime that happens, we all just get laid up for a complete upset, and the Giants would come away victorious in this instance. So I think it's Dolphins by default because I don't have a lot of better choices, but I'm a little bit nervous. I do say that.
I co-sign that, so I don't know if that makes you feel good.
Oh,
or bad,
I'm way more nervous. You have to be way more nervous.
saying, I'm in on the Dolphins too.
Joe,
we'll
you're
ride
great.
together. We'll go down together.
Ride or die. That's it. Joe, you're great. JB Fantasy Sports. Hit him up on RotoWire. Fantastic. If he wins the Powerball, all the hits Joe will be doing then in the future will be on a golden throne. Just in case for everyone.
Can't rule it out.
Joe, good luck to your Packers, and we appreciate the time this morning.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. Bye
You
now.
got it. Joe is awesome. We'll come back.
By the way, I love when we get guests on, and we've been doing this now for over a year, where they clearly were prepped for, they had ideas as to what they were going to come on and talk about. And then for about 4 or 5 minutes, we talk about something totally different. I love doing that.
Well, yeah. And I've gotten Keith's going to go buy a Powerball ticket.
I'm going to go do that now. I will after the show. Now, amongst my errands that I'm running this afternoon, I will do that. Yes.
Real-time sports pick'em contest. We'll do that next. He's Keith Irizarry. I'm Mark Malusis. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Friday right here, Better Sports Network.
I feel like Devon Levi started off in the friend zone, and now like he could possibly be wife material. So it is exceptionally hard to trust a rookie goalie in the NHL. The kid is what? He's 21. Like, okay. And he is going to the Buffalo Sabres. But we've all agreed that the Buffalo Sabres are at least a somewhat better hockey team on paper. Again, it's hard to trust a rookie goalie. We've seen future Hall of Fame goalies like, Fleury in his first year struggle, right? Carey Price in his first year struggle. It is tough for goalies to come in and have success. That being said, nobody outside of maybe a Buffalo sports fan can tell me who the 2 goalies on their roster are, because I didn't know until this morning, until I was reminded that it was Eric Comrie and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And I was like, okay, well, he has the crease to himself. So all he can do is lose it. That's all he can do. Buffalo is going to be a fun team to watch, which means maybe Devon Levi ends up in what I call the Martin Jones syndrome, which is a goals against average is pretty up there. Save percentage is not very good, but he's going to finish with 35 wins because he's just going to play a lot. And it's going to be that back and forth hockey. The Atlantic Division is not very good, right? There are some teams that are going to regress. So there's opportunities here for Buffalo to do well. And I think his over-under on wins is set at 24.5. So again, there's a lot of things that I may not trust about him, but as a 13th goalie off the board, and I think that is a reach at 13. I think a lot of people have him farther back than that. So he may be 13 on NHL.com's list, but you may end up and show up in your Yahoo or your ESPN draft and they haven't ranked probably outside of the top 20. So I would have no issue as a second goalie going with Levi, because like, who's taking his spot? Nobody. And volume at one point, if you're in a league that doesn't penalize you for losses, if you're in a league that rewards saves and save bonuses like, for daily, DraftKings does, he has all that working for him. So if it doesn't work out, all right, fine. Then you can go and pick up whoever is there. But it is his net to lose. I understand the risk. I will definitely take, because that's how you win championships, right? You got to take risks to win them. If you're safe, you're going to finish, eliminated in the first round and you had a good time. Or you can try to win the championship on draft day.
It's Moose and Keith with Mark Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
All right, time right now for the real-time sports pick'em contest. Set lineup of player props, hit them all and win. Combine multiple sports or play your favorite. MLB, NFL, PGA more. 2 correct, get 3 times your entry. All the way up to 6 correct gets 40 times your entry. Go to rtsports.com/alarm. First-time depositors get 100% instant match up to $200. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800 Gambler. All right, Keith, you fire away selections when you're looking at the NFL on Sunday.
All right, let's first go to the Texans. And I thought about CJ Stroud here, and I think he's going to have a big day. And if he's going to have a big day, it's probably going to be one of his wide receivers as well. So let's roll with Nico Collins. We're going to go over on the 59.5 receiving yards, so more than 59.5 receiving yards. He has topped this in 3 games this season. And really just what I'm noticing, and it's something that I talked about in the preseason when we were kind of breaking down potential fantasy standouts. CJ Stroud and Nico Collins have this kind of chemistry going. So I'm in on Nico Collins.
I'll go Darren Waller for the Giants. I'll continue to back my guy, Foxhole. Waller over 39.5 receiving yards. Listen, I don't think the Giants can hang with Miami. I think they can score on Miami. Vic Fangio's defense, they're struggling early on here. I think Dolphins are going to score. I think the Giants, though, I don't think the offensive line is going to be as bad. I understand Orlovsky went through it, and not all the sacks were on the offensive line. It was on the quarterback as well. Offense is yet to get on track and be anything sort of consistent, but 39.5 is such a low number. And Darren Waller, I think, was frustrated after the Seahawks game. I think they get the ball into Darren Waller's hands. I'll go over 39.5 receiving yards. It's such a low number.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not as on board with Waller as you are, but 40 yards feels attainable for Darren Waller. Let's go with another wide receiver from the other New York team, the green one. We're going to go Garrett Wilson over 57.5 receiving yards. He has topped this in 2 of his last 3 games. And when you look at the Broncos, they've given up the 3rd most passing yards per game this season. So if last week was maybe a moment for Zach Wilson, that means that Garrett Wilson should end up paying dividends because of that. So we'll roll with Garrett Wilson.
All right, Green Bay, Vegas. We just had Joe Bartel, Mr. Green Bay Packer, on. He talked about Romeo Doubs. I'm going to take him over 47.5 receiving yards this week as the Packers are in Vegas taking the Raiders. So Romeo Doubs over 47.5 receiving yards.
I like the matchup for Kansas City this week, which typically you kind of go every week. You like the matchup for Kansas City. So I'm going to look at the runner in Isaiah Pacheco, who you could make an argument. No one runs the ball like harder than he does. He just runs viciously, even when he's just like out in the, pass defender, still running hard. Let's go over 12.5 fantasy points this week. So we'll go from, your typical betting number over under on a yard total to a fantasy number here. He's topped this in back-to-back weeks. And Kansas City, they tease you with their running backs. I'm going to take the bait and believe that Pacheco is the lead running back.
There you go. I like that. Calvin Ridley, Jacksonville. We know Tre'Davious White done for the year, torn Achilles for the Buffalo Bills. Ridley, Jacksonville, Buffalo, over in England. 54.5 receiving yards for Calvin Ridley for Jacksonville. I'll go over that number. I don't think the Jaguars are winning the game. I do think, though, there'll be plays to be made on that secondary as they adjust without Tre'Davious White. Poyer missed the game last week, so they battled through some injuries, but give me over 54.5 receiving yards for Calvin Ridley.
All right, that does it for our real-time sports picks. Go to the chat. Would you trade Mixon for Najee, Flowers, and Judy? Now, this is from NAUT33. So the issue with this question is not 33. Without knowing your roster, I don't know if you need the depth. If depth is what you need, then yes, I would do this. But I would throw caution here. I'm not so sure that Najee is the number 1 running back in Pittsburgh anymore. Kind of looks like he is on his way out of that role. Zay Flowers, really good. Jerry Jeudy, I don't trust. I'm not crazy high on Joe Mixon, but if you're the one getting Joe Mixon, I think you're getting the best player in this deal. It just depends on what your depth is on your roster.
Problem is, the passing game just has yet to get on track for them.
For Cincinnati.
For Cincinnati. That's the problem. Like, I've had Joe Mixon, and he's getting a lot of carries. It's just not like getting a lot of yards, and they're not
15,
scoring.
16 carries a game, yeah.
Yeah, he's ended up with like 55, 65 yards. I mean, that's it when you're looking at Joe Mixon. I agree with you. Listen, I think everyone's off the Najee Harris bandwagon. Flowers is great. Judy I've had in fantasy. Judy is such a tease. He really is. One more before we go. Would you trade Sanders for Gibbs PPR?
I want to be the one that has Jahmyr Gibbs in that situation.
Yes. So
Jahmyr Gibbs would be the person I would want in that trade.
Jahmyr Gibbs, I would make that trade. Keith, great job. Brian Burns, awesome. Behind the scene. Joe Bartel from RotoWire joined us as well. You guys in the chat session, we appreciate you. Thanks for being with us. We're going to be off Monday. Because it's a holiday. We'll be with you on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the football. We'll talk to you next week.
Hopefully I'll have a gold throne behind me. $1.4 billion.